Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. And we're speaking now with Etta Martin, who is a mental health consultant at the SCV Senior Center.
That's right.
How are you?
Well,
You've come to the right place to help people.
Yes.
Barbara and I are in a lot of need. We made it through 2015, but
that's right.
But 2016, we need your help, Etta, badly.
Well, I'm here to help.
That's
great. My pleasure.
So the Senior Center, we're both very familiar with the Senior Center, the people over there. We know seniors have a tough time. It's not easy knowing and being aware you're getting old. That is not a fun thing that looks you in the face every day when you get up in the morning. But how do you...
I disagree with you.
Well, that's fine.
I
but
disagree
that was
with
my
you.
lead-in, so I'm reading it here. So.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not reading it,
right.
but we're trying to, in terms of our seniors and the care that you might render to everybody except for Barbara, those seniors who are facing the problems of aging, the physical problems will go to the Senior Center, but there are some who have the mental problems of becoming a senior. How do you help them?
Well, one of the ways that I help them is the fact that I'm a senior, too. Mm-hmm. And I tend to agree with Barbara. I feel that my experience, my life experience, the work that I've done, my personal history and transformation have helped me to be a very positive and upbeat person. Absolutely. And I have so many skills that I have to share with people. And I use a strengths training perspective to build on people's positive qualities. So and everybody has them. Everybody.
Oh, it is so nice to hear you say that. I think it's fantastic. Not enough people do.
I feel it's essential, and that's why I enjoy coming here so much, because I recently retired from a full-time profession. I'm a licensed LCSW, mm-hmm. and I didn't go back to school. I didn't start getting my education until I was 49 years old, and that was getting my bachelor's, and I graduated from USC with my master's when I was 55 years old.
Congratulations from USC.
Yes.
That's not an easy place to graduate
from. It was a
wonderful
education. I'm very proud of myself, and I feel like I've had so much to offer. I cared for my mother for the last 8.5 years of her life. She had dementia, and she had Parkinson's disease. I relocated from New York City, where I'd been living for 18 years, as a hair colorist, actually, and came back and changed, my career completely, mm-hmm. and became an advocate for my mom. And by the time I graduated from SC, I had such a passion for the elderly, and mm-hmm. being an only child and having a mother who was in her late 80s and finally passed at 93, I knew that people needed help, and I was just drawn to it. Just so that it's a calling. I really believe that this helping profession and most helping professions are really a calling. Mm-hmm. And so I've just been able to use what I have to help people, because I've transformed, and I have the education, and working for 8.5 years with people that had dementia and Alzheimer's, where I counseled the families and helped to help them, and ran support groups for Alzheimer's and other types of dementia, gave me a perfect background to come here and start working at the Senior Center. So what I do now is I run 2 support groups on Friday mornings. One is an Alzheimer's and dementia support group, and then Alzheimer's training. And I use a lot of the experiences that I've had to be able to help people to learn the ins and outs of what they need to do in terms of, getting a conservatorship or getting a POLST, a pulse, for the final wishes, the important things. But the fellowship of the people is what I find so beautiful, because I've come into a community that is so caring and so loving and so helpful to each other that I feel blessed. And I feel so upbeat. When I leave, I feel like, wow, I am so fortunate that I get to meet these fabulous people and work with them. And
you are an upbeat person anyway. Your cup is always half full.
yeah.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, and that helps, right?
Oh, yes, it does.
It just makes life so joyous.
It does.
You have things to look forward to.
You look forward to getting out of the bed in the morning.
Yes.
You really do.
Yes, and you don't give up making plans. Just because I retired doesn't mean I don't have a new list and things and new goals that I set for myself. I also run 2 other groups on Tuesday mornings at the senior center. One is at 10 o'clock, and that group is called Emotional Health. And with that group, I use everything because I have so much of a background that I like to teach cognitive behavioral techniques so people can learn how their thinking really controls their behavior. So I try to help them to learn to reframe how they think about things, to not awfulize and make things so terrible, so that they can have a better outcome. And I'll use books that I've read as well, learning about the relationship between the body and the brain and emotions, because I've had such a great background in my education, and I read and I continue to go to learning opportunities. So I bring that into the group, and I try to help them to learn more so that they can see themselves in a better light and have a deeper understanding about what motivates them.
Well, that's true. And all of that goes back to childhood.
Absolutely.
It really goes back to childhood. I know, because I was a little girl and I was always saying, bye-bye, Daddy, bye-bye. He was off into the service, and that was during the war, Second World War.
Right.
And it was absolutely paralyzing. And my mother, she couldn't handle it.
Right.
I mean, she'd run after him with my brother and me, one hand, and she was, Reg, don't leave us, And she would drag us down to the train station.
Right.
And this one particular instance, my dad was in the restroom, and she couldn't find him, and she was panicked. Mm-hmm. And of course, we were panicked. Mm-hmm. Then she heard him cough. And here we go, tearing into the restroom.
Wow.
My mother didn't want my dad to go. And Dad said, Lil, you cannot come in here. Yes, I can. But those kinds of things in childhood really direct the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
And until you're ready to face those situations that put you in this panic mode, so to speak, you're never going to get over it.
I can't agree with you more.
That's where therapists come in.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, that's very, very true, and it sounds like you've made use of that yourself.
Oh, I absolutely have.
Right.
And that's why I'm here today.
Right, of course.
With the positive outlook.
Right, I can totally get that. Actually, we were talking about that in my group yesterday about what was your earliest memory, and then how did that earliest memory shape your life today? And because your memories are the emotion that drives you. It's not just your rational thoughts. It comes from this heart and this gut feeling.
That's right.
That starts at ages that are so young. It can sometimes be pre-verbal, but you just know. So I do therapy, and it's through the center. And actually, it's a very nominal fee. The center pays me for the therapy. So people who want to make an appointment to see me for private therapy can make a donation for $5 or $10, and I meet with them for an hour.
Oh, my
I know.
goodness.
Well, I'm inspired by it.
I know, but I'm thinking back to, holy cow, I was paying $70 for 30 minutes.
Well, I totally understand that
You know?
because I've paid those rates
Yes,
too.
yes.
I've always paid for therapy, and I've never used insurance for therapy, and I've made good use of it through the years. And I continue to take classes where I can learn how to help the people that I'm seeing now, because I feel that it's my responsibility as a professional to, well, not just to do no harm, but to learn as much as I can so that I can empower them. Because
Absolutely.
I don't want them to be tied to me. I want them to be able to get something out of it, feel better, go into the world and know that something has changed, or that they're seeing the world in a different way.
That's right, that they're losing that fear.
Right.
Losing the fear of living.
Yes, yes.
And that is really traumatic to
Yes.
a lot of people.
Right, and I know this time of year in particular, and I neglected to mention the other group that I do on Tuesdays after the emotional support group. I do a grief and loss group, and probably for that group of people, that is the greatest fear. That's where the fear really, really lies, because people have so much to look forward to in their lives when they're younger, but when they've lost their significant other, when they've lost the most important person, sometimes that person feels like they're everything. They don't know how to move forward anymore, and they're afraid to even make plans because they don't want the rug to be pulled out from under them.
So how, I'm sitting between two cups that are half full. And I don't think that I'm half empty, although some people will say I am. But our seniors who are listening to our show, Etta, right now, how do those seniors recognize that they're having a problem? How do they know that they should seek the therapy that both of you have had? Where do they self-reflect?
That is a great question. And I would say that it starts with tuning into the body and seeing, how you feel when you wake up in the morning. If you feel numb, if you're dreading getting up, if you don't want to do things, if you don't want to socialize, if you find yourself not answering the phone and getting cut off from other people, maybe your hygiene is slipping, maybe you're not eating healthy, maybe you had a routine before and you just don't care about it anymore. Those are some of the symptoms. Those are red. Those are red
some people
flags.
just won't see that, and that's why it's important that those in the community, the relatives, the children of the senior, the neighbors of the seniors, the caregivers for the seniors also recognize the symptoms you just mentioned, to bring it forward and say, you might be having some problems that could require therapy.
And that is sometimes the way certain of the participants end up coming to the groups at the center, is that a daughter will bring them, a sister, a family member will say, I really want you to go. We have one man, I just adore him, in the Alzheimer's support group, and he didn't want to come initially, but his family brought him, and he's been a regular member now for I think at least 2.5 years, and he gets so much out of the group and gives so much to it that he's really a core person. And so many other people have started that way. And I think they're very fortunate when they have people that are in their lives that are going to, lead them to it. I'd encourage people just to come to the center and try out different things. If they're a little nervous about, going to a support group, they have a lot of different activities at the senior center, and the members that are in my groups go to those groups as well. And sometimes they'll invite people and say, well, somebody who's in the meditation group says, I think you might get something out of coming to the emotional support group. Why don't you try it out? Or the watercolor group. People do different things there. And
exercising.
The exercise group every morning, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But people need purpose in life to move forward.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, to get to the point where you say, okay, now I need purpose, they have to overcome the backdrop of their childhood maybe, or part of their life that may have affected them. So, and that's what you're there for.
That's right.
That's what you do. And, it's the hard part is getting our seniors to recognize maybe you need to do something. You might dread getting up. You might not want to interact. All these things might be happening, but, it's got to be recognized. And that's the difficult part, because once you recognize it, then you can start finding the purpose that would bring you further even faster.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I will share that there have been several people that I've come across that are sometimes in my groups that have a lot of somatic pain. That that's not unusual for people to have pain in their arms or in their legs or in their back or headaches, and talk a lot about the physical pain that they experience. And I might, say in a very gentle way, there's a real connection between the mind and the body.
Absolutely.
I think that it would really be beneficial for you to get some counseling. If you don't have a counselor, I'd be happy to meet with you. And sometimes people will have a counselor, and sometimes people will say, oh, I don't need that. And, that's... At this point, they're not ready, and you have to respect that. One thing I say in the groups, and I make and this is very important to me, is to respect everybody where they're at, because it's a sacred place. We're there to hear people in the groups, to hear what their feelings are, and to listen to their experience. It's not for me to make suggestions that people really don't want.
That's very interesting that you say that, because I can think back. A certain incident occurred to me that got me very, very upset, and I immediately ran into the house, called my psychiatrist, and I said, I need to come in to see you. And he said, Barbara, you mean to tell me you're ready to get out of your mud puddle and wash the mud off? Because that would have been the third attempt to try and get my life straightened out. And when he said that to me, I thought, oh, it really started me thinking about what I was doing with my life, that I had to really get out of that mud puddle and wash the mud off and go forward. And that's what I did. A lot of it was very, very painful for quite a long time, but it worked.
Exactly.
It worked.
Of course it did. And the important thing to recognize is that it will be painful, because if you have an unrealistic expectation that it's not going to be difficult, then everybody would do it.
Yeah.
That's right.
But you have to be ready.
You have
and
to
Barbara,
be ready.
you were
Yes,
ready.
I was ready.
I don't see any mud on you right now.
No.
But
I haven't had mud on me for a long, long time now.
Good for you. So we need to take a break
Yes, we do.
with Etta, and we're going to be back in a few moments. We're talking with Etta Martin from the Senior Center on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Wow, I made a mess of that one, didn't I?
It's the end of the. You haven't done that all year.
Yeah.
At the very last time you need to do it, there it was. But
KHTS. There we are.
Very good.
And we're speaking with Etta Martin, and she is a consultant at the Senior Center, and we've been talking about a myriad of things, mainly in the mental health and getting people better from a mental standpoint. Emotional.
And trying to recognize that our seniors who are listening every day have to face this in some way or another, not just with themselves, but with the people around them. That is just a part of our lives now. And for us not to recognize that that's the biggest problem. And so our job here at the Senior Hour is to make sure that, Etta, you are out there and assuring those seniors who are sitting at home right now and listening to our show that there is a place for them. There is a place for them to get out there, open their hearts, but also fix some of their heart that might be suffering.
Absolutely. And I feel like the Senior Center at Santa Clarita is a wonderful place to do that, because it's a very safe, healing, and protective environment filled with people that are loving and welcoming and upbeat, and I think it takes a tremendous amount of courage for people that are suffering at home just to get up in the morning, get dressed, and go to the Senior Center just to check it out and see what there is. Right there, they've made a tremendous step forward in their lives. And taking that first step is where it's at. You have to start somewhere.
And one good way to start, one place to start, would be going to lunch.
You're right. A free lunch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why not?
Why not?
With sometimes some super entertainment as
That's
well.
correct.
That's right. That's very true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And sitting at a table with other people and talking to them and just being in a very non-threatening environment.
Absolutely. That would be one of the first places and times that I would do that if I were in a situation like that.
That's right. I agree.
Go for lunch.
Right.
And
Very good
hear
point.
all of these people in conversations.
Absolutely.
And learn a little bit about what goes on at that senior center, because it is jam-packed with all kinds of things to do.
It's funny that you said that, because when I first started caring for my mom and she didn't want to go anywhere, I brought her to the Senior Center. I brought her to the Valley storefront. And she was very reluctant. I, of course, loved it, but we sat at the table and we talked to other people, and I got her interested, and the next thing I knew, she was going to play bridge and doing some of the other events there, and I wasn't going with her, but we started there. And I believe that is a really great place to start.
I think it is. I really do, because you're around lots and lots of people. It's very non-threatening.
Right. Now, but that again, that brings me to another point. We talked about some of the signs of depression and that feeling of numbness, but we've also talked about fear and anxiety. And I think it's important to recognize how much of that is created by the thoughts that we tell ourselves. And that's where somebody can really battle with themselves and say, oh, I'm really afraid if I go, no one's going to talk to me. I'm going to be all by myself. I'm going to feel like a fool. Then you have to stop right there and realize that's a red flag. You can't think that way. You're already putting negative thoughts into your head.
That's right.
Just keep open about it. You don't think about it. Just go forward. If you have to think about something, think about something happy. The last time you had a nice time with other people and how that made you feel, how enriched you felt making a human connection, and just keep that in your mind when you go. And there's the possibility that that'll happen again. So you want to keep that in your mind. These positive thoughts, attract the positive. Don't let that fear keep you from moving forward in your life. Battle it.
And find the courage to get over to the Senior Center. Etta Martin, thanks for being on the show today. You know, it ends our year, but it brings in a new year. Thanks. You know, you've given super information for our listeners.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much. We are sponsored by Advanced Audiology and In-Home Care Santa Clarita. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your new year.